Hello and welcome to Firstpost Spotlight, where we bring you stories that matter to you from all across the world. From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, we shed light on issues that shape our world. I am Joshua Barnes, live from the Firstpost studios. Let's begin with the top headlines. India signs a pact with Russia to produce SJ-100 passenger jets for domestic use, marking the country's first major step into civilian aircraft manufacturing in decades. President Volodymyr Zelensky says Ukraine needs continued European financial support to sustain its fight against Russian forces for another 2 to 3 years, as he admits Russian troops have gained more of a foothold. Allies of Sudan's army accuse paramilitary forces of executing more than 2,000 unarmed civilians after seizing control of the western city of El Fasher amid mounting reports of atrocities. Amazon is set to cut around 14,000 corporate jobs as it moves to cut costs, streamline operations, and accelerate automation. And thousands of people in Vietnam have been evacuated after record rainfall of more than 1 metre in 24 hours that submerged the central city of Hue. First, let's talk about metals. Gold is losing its shine once again. Prices of the precious metal have tumbled to a near 3-week low, wiping out some of the massive gains made earlier this month. Spot gold slipped below the $4,000 per ounce mark today, its lowest level in nearly 3 weeks. That's after the metal had touched a record high of over $4,380 just earlier this month. So what's really happening here? Well, let's start with why gold prices were so high in the first place. Over the past few months, investors rushed to buy gold as the US-China tariff war rattled supply chains and threatened global growth. Gold became a safety net, a store of value when everything else looked risky. But now, as signs of a truce are emerging between Washington and Beijing, investors are breathing easier. On Sunday, top negotiators from both sides outlined a framework for a trade deal. That's set to be discussed further when President Donald Trump meets with President Xi Jinping in South Korea on Thursday. When tensions ease, investors feel less need to park their money in gold, and that's exactly what's happening now. The second big reason for the drop is profit booking. After gold's massive rally this year, some investors are simply cashing out. They're taking their profits while prices are still high, especially as festive demand begins to fade. Then there's investors' appetite for risk. When optimism returns to global markets, investors tend to move away from safe haven assets like gold and towards riskier ones, such as stocks. That shift in sentiment from fear to confidence naturally pulls money out of gold. The next big test comes this week, with major central bank meetings lined up. All eyes are on the US Federal Reserve, which is expected to cut interest rates again. Now, here is the interesting part. Gold usually benefits when interest rates are low because returns from savings accounts and bonds tend to shrink. If the Fed signals on Wednesday that this could be the last rate cut for a while, that could further weaken gold's outlook. The European Central Bank and Bank of Japan are also meeting this week, and both are expected to keep their rates steady. So, is gold really losing its charm? Well, not quite, as precious metals are known to be volatile. Even with this correction, gold prices are still way higher than they were at the start of the year. Gold prices have gained around 44% this year alone. The precious metal is up around 5% this month. And the metal's long-term appeal as a hedge against uncertainty, inflation, and volatile markets remains intact. But in the short term, gold may see a few more choppy sessions.
6% drawdown on Monday or Tuesday, whatever it was, does not concern us in terms of the long term. thesis of having something that is a store of value against debt that is going to be the most likely scenario.
And it isn't just gold that is facing the brunt. Other metals, including silver and platinum, have slipped too. The real question now is, will gold find its footing again if the US-China deal falters? Or has the world's favourite safe haven finally lost some of its shine in calmer waters? Either way, one thing is certain. In markets as unpredictable as these, gold may fall, but it never stays out of the spotlight for long. Let's now shift focus to the latest updates from US President Donald Trump's Asia visit. He is in Japan for the second leg of his Asia tour. He held bilateral talks with the country's first female Prime Minister, newly appointed Sanae Takaichi. The talks focused on trade and security. During the meeting, Trump underscored US-Japan ties and called Washington Tokyo's strongest ally. Takaichi hailed the golden era of bilateral relations and said that she would nominate Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. This for brokering a truce between Thailand and Cambodia, as well as the Gaza ceasefire deal.
I often heard from Prime Minister Abe about President Trump's dynamic diplomacy. You contributed to Asia's peace, including helping bring about a ceasefire deal between Thailand and Cambodia, and more recently, the agreement in the Middle East, which was an unprecedented historic achievement.
Well, Trump held talks with Takaichi at the Akasaka Palace in downtown Tokyo this morning. The duo also signed a trade deal that laid the framework for Washington's access to Japan's critical minerals and rare earths.
Signing a new deal, and it's a very fair deal, and we look forward to welcoming Japan into the United States and a continuation. And it's something that everybody is very, very excited about.
I am determined to restore a strong Japanese diplomacy in order to fully protect Japan's national interests. I'm ready to promote further collaboration with the U.S. to achieve a free and open Indo-Pacific.
This comes as Japan faces a 15% levy on most of its exports to the United States. And under the terms shared by the White House for a deal agreed back in July, Tokyo is expected to invest $550 billion into the American market. Takaichi also gifted Trump a golf putter from the late Japanese Premier Shinzo Abe. Also a golf bag signed by Japanese major winner Hideki Matsuyama and a gold leaf golf ball. After bilateral talks, Trump headed to meet the families of Japanese citizens abducted by North Korea decades ago. North Korea admitted in 2002 that it had sent agents to kidnap 13 Japanese nationals who trained spies.
We are with the Prime Minister and her strong feeling, a tremendous feeling. And as you know, I've been here before. Some of the people I've met before. And it continues onward. They've been looking for so many years, so long.
Trump also visited the USS George Washington aircraft carrier, docked at an American naval base in Japan. He addressed troops at the US base. The president will conclude his Japan visit after a dinner with Japanese business leaders.
But the cherished alliance between the United States and Japan is one of the most remarkable relationships in the entire world. Really, there's never been anything like it. Born out of the ashes of a terrible war, our bond has grown over 8 decades into the beautiful friendship that we have. It's a foundation of peace and security in the Pacific. You see it?
A day earlier, Trump was received by Japanese Emperor Naruhito at the presidential palace. The meeting between the two lasted for more than half an hour. Trump will head to South Korea next to attend the APEC Summit and hold bilateral talks with his South Korean counterpart, Jae Myung. In the last leg of his Asia tour, Trump will also meet Chinese President Xi Jinping. This much-anticipated high-stakes meeting would come amid a raging trade war between the US and China. Moving on, the Eurofighter Typhoon, one of Europe's most advanced combat jets, has just landed one of its biggest export deals in nearly 2 decades. The United Kingdom has signed an agreement worth $10.7 billion, this to supply 20 Eurofighter Typhoons to Turkey. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer called it a win for British workers. This deal will support around 20,000 jobs across the UK, from BAE Systems assembly plants in Lancashire to Rolls-Royce engine facilities in Bristol. BAE Systems will assemble Turkey's jets in the UK, and the first delivery is expected in 2030. Starmer added that the agreement provides the option for the sale of more jets in the future.
It is a landmark moment, reflecting the increasing depth and breadth of our existing cooperation and our ambition to go further. At the heart of this is our agreement today that the UK will provide Turkey with 20 new Eurofighter Typhoon aircraft, with the option to provide more in future. This will bolster security across NATO, deepen our bilateral defence cooperation, and boost economic growth here and in the United Kingdom, securing 20,000 British jobs, building these state-of-the-art fighter jets. That is something to celebrate.
For Britain, it's the largest fighter jet export deal since the early 2000s. For Turkey, it's a major step in rebuilding its air power and its reputation within NATO. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan hailed the deal as a new symbol of strategic relations with Britain.
We are determined to further strengthen our economic relations. Our relevant institutions and organizations are taking many measures, including updating our free trade agreement. We are also exploring joint investment opportunities in third countries. We aim to establish new partnerships in the energy and defense industries.
Turkey and the UK had signed a preliminary deal in July for the Eurofighters. These jets are manufactured by a consortium comprising of the UK, Germany, Italy and Spain, and led by Britain's BAE Systems. The final deal follows Germany's reported decision to lift its long-standing opposition to the sale of the jets to Turkey. The jets have been one of the Royal Air Force's key aircraft for 2 decades, including in Iraq and intercepting Russian planes since Moscow's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The Eurofighter Typhoon jets are built from advanced composite materials, giving it a tough, lightweight frame and a low radar signature, meaning it's harder to detect. The engines deliver 1,200 flying hours without needing unscheduled maintenance. It can carry a wide range of weapons, air-to-air missiles for dogfights and precision bombs for ground targets. The electronically scanned radar in the jets give it eyes that see far and wide, with nearly 50% more coverage than traditional systems. And the Pirate's infrared tracking system allows pilots to spot and follow multiple moving targets without even turning on their radar. For Turkey, the timing is crucial. The country was kicked out of the US F-35 program in 2019 over its purchase of Russian-made S-400 missiles. President Erdogan raised the issue of the sale of F-35 fighter jets during a recent meeting with US President Donald Trump at the White House. So now, Turkey is turning west again, aiming to modernize its air force while it waits for its own homegrown Khan 5th-generation fighter, which is still years away. Alongside the 20 new Typhoons from Britain, Turkey also plans to buy 24 second-hand jets from Qatar and Oman. It also wants to acquire a total of 120 fighter jets, 40 Eurofighters, 40 US-made F-16s and 40 F-35s as a transitional fleet ahead of the Khan's entry into service, which is expected to happen by 2029. Now, as deliveries begin for the Typhoon jets in the next few years, the focus will shift from signing tables to runways and to how both countries translate this deal into long-term strategic cooperation. And moving on to our last story. Belgium's Defence Minister Theo Franken issued a strong warning to Russia, saying any missile strike on Brussels would trigger a decisive NATO response. His remarks came just days after Russia tested a nuclear-powered cruise missile, heightening tensions across Europe. Defence Minister Theo Franken said that if Russian President Vladimir Putin ever launched a missile at Brussels, we will wipe Moscow off the map. He stressed that such an attack would immediately activate NATO's collective defence and added that he did not believe Putin would take such a step. Franken also warned against underestimating Russia's growing military capabilities. He said that Russia's war economy was now producing 4 times more ammunition than all of the NATO members combined. The defence minister noted that Europe lacked a central military command and said Ukraine continued to resist against Russia only because it was being supported with Western weapons, ammunition and funding. The Belgian minister also defended NATO's unity under US President Donald Trump. He said Europe often misunderstood Washington's stance, adding that Trump had clearly stated that America would continue its support to NATO allies.
The bias against the American government is so great in Europe. Unbelievable. He literally said that America will continue to support its NATO allies 100%. A cruise missile on Brussels? That's a no-brainer, whatever definition you use. Putin won't do that either.
Franken also highlighted that Europe would soon have around 600 F-35 fighter jets, aircraft that the Russians are afraid of because they can't directly detect them. Franken's remarks came soon after Russia successfully tested its nuclear-powered Burevestnik cruise missile, a weapon President Putin claimed could pierce any defense shield. Putin said Russia would move towards deploying the system as part of its strategy to resist Western pressure over the war in Ukraine. The missile test drew criticism from US President Donald Trump, who called the launch inappropriate. Trump had earlier ruled out meeting Putin unless there was progress towards a ceasefire, saying he would not waste time on talks without a clear agreement in place. The tensions came as the European Union also moved to strengthen its defences. Last month, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen called for building a drone wall along the EU's border to protect against Russian incursions. Brussels aimed to make the system operational by 2027. Franken's remarks underscored Europe's growing unease over Russia's weapons testing and the shifting balance of power within NATO. As Moscow advanced its military technology and the EU looked to tighten its defences, the standoff between Russia and the West appears far from over. Well, that's all we have on the show today. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Until then, thank you for watching.
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most to you. Catch it all on Spotlight at 6 p.m. India time and 12:30 GMT, only on Firstpost.
Hello and welcome to Firstpost Live, where we bring you the